This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Cabo Jim Schaller.
Welcome, good neighbors, to episode number 240 of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have good neighbor Trish Henkel from Home Watch of Naples. Welcome.
Hi, Jim. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure to have you on and learn a little bit more about what you do and share that with our listeners. So let's jump right in. And why don't you share a little bit about what you do over at Home Watch of Naples to start off with?
Well, I think I would start off with letting your audience know that we're a certified and professionally trained home watch service provider, and that we provide exceptional service to all our clients.
Very nice.
Some people may not be aware of what that difference is as far as being certified and professionally trained, but there is actually a training program for Home Watch. And so when we first started our business, I'm like that kind of person that is, tell me everything I need to know. I want to do it right the first time. And so through the Home Watch Academy, we did a training course and, never looked back from there. It's been a great experience for us.
Very nice. So how did you get involved in the home watch industry to start off with?
Well, my husband and I were kind of at that stage in life in between, working full time and kind of being semi-retired. And we did a lot of research looking into different businesses, different business models. And when I found that training program, I had a great resource. I could ask all the questions to make sure that, that was going to be a good fit for us, for our personalities. And so, and for your audience, I would also recommend, if someone else is looking for a business opportunity, that's a great way to go. The founder of that program, she's a great resource and mentor to really help you get your business started in the right direction. We've been in business now. This is our fourth year, and we service about 100 clients.
Wow, that's quite a number. So let's talk about challenges. Obviously there's a lot of challenges in home watch when it comes to our seasonality down here in Florida. We've got a lot of natural things that happen here on a regular basis. But are there a lot of challenges homeowners face when they're not present?
Well, I can list a whole bunch of things here. I would say probably one of the first things, like if I sit down with a new client, I have been shocked at how many times I hear someone say, I don't really know when my home watch company is here or what they do. And to me, that should never be the case. And so in our model that we've set up for our clients, that should never be the question. So we use professional software in our reporting. So those emails are sent. We take a number of pictures that are all date and time stamped. And that shows the client that we're here, that we're checking these things. So like, for example, if I show you a picture and it's going to be underneath the kitchen sink, well, that's showing you that we're checking underneath there looking for drips or leaks. Another big thing that most people, there are companies out there that maybe, I don't know what they do. I kind of call them pop and go companies, but we're there at the property for a while. We're monitoring humidity. So your thermostat knows what those settings are. Usually it's kind of centrally located, but we're taking those humidity settings kind of in those outlying bedrooms because that's the main thing. Some people might be able to have their AC set on 78 when they're gone. As long as it's managing humidity, that's fine. But other systems might struggle to do that. And so maybe their AC needs to be set on 76. So, each property is going to be different in that aspect. So, and those are some of the things that maybe the homeowners in your listening area, if they're looking for a new company, they may not be in our service area, but those are the kind of questions that they should be asking. But we check for drips and leaks. We're checking for signs of any pest issues, rodents. And then that's all packaged, in that report that we send, lots of photos in there. That way, the homeowner knows that, we've been there, we're actually checking the property.
And that's the important part, because there's so many. Let's talk about that a little bit. The myths or misconceptions surrounding the home watch industry and, what people expect versus sometimes what they get.
Right. And, I know, for here in our area in Southwest Florida, one of the big concerns that we face and the challenges is, hurricane season. What is the extent of, what's that storm going to be? Because, they've been a little more proactive these last couple of years. And, we've been through those situations with our clients, especially with Ian. We had several clients that did take on water, and helping them navigate that afterwards, especially if they're still not here. So through part of this and having what's our protocol in place, we've realized that anytime there's a named storm, we need to do a post-storm assessment, because, whether it's you've got a tree, that's fallen into your lanai, whether there's roof damage, whether there's intrusion. I can't assume just because everything's okay at my house that it's okay at yours. And, I want our clients to have that confidence that if they call me or, they're wanting that, immediate feedback on what's going on, that I can give them answers and not excuses. So, that, and there are a lot of challenges, with Ian that, communications were very poor. Cell service was very poor. I remember one of those nights, I couldn't get a cell service at my house, but I could get one over at Walmart. And I went over to Walmart, I was over there about 3 hours, making phone calls to clients because, if they had some sort of issue, I wanted them to hear it, firsthand on that. So, but it's a different, vehicle here in Florida, I think, especially with the things that we encounter. But,
Absolutely.
You've got to have a plan in place for your clients.
So let's back up your story here a little bit. Are you from Southwest Florida originally? I think you mentioned you retired, right? Down here?
Well, so we've lived in Florida now since 2012. But originally we're from Ohio. So we kind of bring our Midwest values with us. I believe that, Home Watch is a very personal service. We're in the client's home when they're not. And, just that, I don't know. I find it frustrating if you call a business or something like that. When do they get back with you? So I'm a big person. I believe in answering my phone when somebody calls, or if I've had to miss a call, I'm going to call you back. Those are the kind of things that you need to know, if you've got somebody kind of overseeing that care of your home and you're not here.
Absolutely. And that's the important part. You mentioned it, the Midwestern values. So I know owning this business can be very demanding of your time, and you probably have little free time, but when you do get a moment of free time, what do you enjoy doing outside of work?
Well, before we ever started our Home Watch business, I've taught art classes locally. I usually mostly now I do like community groups, and a lot of them are places I've worked with over the past several years. And my husband, he, in the off season of Home Watch, he works part-time at the golf course in our community. But we're like I said, we're trying to keep that balance between work and enjoying, our time together in this season. And, but, having a home watch business, I do home watch services all year long. But this time of year, we may be only doing about 10% of our client load compared to what we do in the summer. I would say, like, when it comes to home watch, most home watch companies are going to be small, businesses, and most of us work on logistics. So you kind of have a defined service area, because you want to know that you can get to your properties. You want to be within kind of that 20-minute window, so you want to kind of define that pretty well. I would say, to your listeners, because you have, people all over Southwest Florida who are listening to your podcast. So for us, for example, we kind of service off the 41 corridor, mostly kind of between, I would say, Pelican Bay and just north of Coconut Point, and then kind of off of Bonita Beach Road. Like, we'll go down to like that Barefoot Beach area and around there. So, what if one of your listeners, let's say they live in Fort Myers, and it's like, I need a home watch company that does things, professionally, and they know what they're doing. Part of our professional organization, through the Home Watch Academy, there's a website. If you put in your Google search, find Home Watch, that's going to pull up a list of companies that are all certified. They're going to be bonded and insured. They're going to be background checked. You can put in your zip code, and you can find businesses who are going to match up, who are going to be likely servicing your area. And so, that way, because we can't service everyone. But fortunately, we've got some other colleagues that are out there that are, also professionally trained, on top of their game of what they're doing in the industry. Like, we participate in continuing ed still. There's always things we can learn from each other. So, that would be a good place to start, though, for your listeners, that if they want to find a home watch company that services their area, to go to, to Google Find Home Watch and look through the directory on the Home Watch Academy.
Very good. And how would our listeners go about contacting you if they were in the area, in the Naples area, and needed some home watch services?
Well, our website is home. You can put in homewatchofnaples.com, and that'll pull us up. And like I said, we kind of service, kind of described our service area. But, mostly, I don't know, do you do phone numbers too here on your podcast?
Yep.
Okay. We're 239-424-9990 would be our business line.
Very good. Trish, it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Thank you for being such a good neighbor, and we hope to see you out in the community soon.
Well, thank you. I appreciate, me getting to share a little bit about what we do, and even helping to educate your listening audience on what they should be getting from their home watch company.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Estero. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpestero.com. That's gnpestero.com. Or call 239-296-2621.